You ever get the sense that something's off, but you can't quite name it? Like you're hearing a lot, feeling a lot, but deep down you know it's not the whole picture? This week wasn't about controlling life, it was about seeing it clearly, especially when it's trying to sell you a lie. Because in the simulation, the loudest signals aren't always the truest ones. Sometimes, they're the traps. We started with noise, because that's where most distortion begins. Headlines, opinions, reactions. They shout, they spike your attention, and suddenly you're caught in someone else's urgency. But truth doesn't always perform. Sometimes it whispers. Sometimes it says nothing at all. So this week began with a question: is this true, or just loud? That one question, it cuts through half the nonsense. Then we looked under the surface, because not every smile means safety, not every welcome is clean, and you know this, you felt it. Someone says all the right things, but your body knows something's off. We weren't told to be paranoid. We were told to be perceptive, to trust what we feel beneath the signal, the tone behind the tone, the pattern behind the words. Because performance can lie, but energy can't hold a fake frequency for long. Midweek we turned inward, because sometimes the distortion doesn't come from outside, sometimes it's your own story. You feel anxious and you assume something's wrong. You feel rejected and decide you're not enough. You feel heavy and label it failure. But emotion is not the same as truth. So we slowed down, named the feeling, but didn't rush to define what it meant. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is wait for the water to clear. Then we looked at who's profiting, because desire, when it's hijacked, becomes a leash. The simulation sells comfort, urgency, power, and panic, wrapped in offers, wrapped in validation, wrapped in act now or you're not enough yet. But we remembered, before you chase it, ask who's selling it, because not every hook is worth biting. Sometimes you need to break the spell before it becomes a habit. And we ended with the deepest truth of all: patterns don't lie. Words do, intentions do, even vibes can be inconsistent. But the pattern, it's the fingerprint of truth. If someone says they care, but the pattern is distance, inconsistency, or harm, believe the pattern. If a habit feels productive, but leaves you exhausted, distracted, or off-center, believe the pattern. We weren't asked to judge. We were asked to notice. And sometimes, honestly, noticing is the most spiritual act there is. This week wasn't about being cynical. It was about learning to see again, not with suspicion, but, with clarity. You weren't told to trust nothing. You were told to track what stays steady, even when the story changes, because, well, the simulation will always try to spin a story, but the field doesn't respond to drama. It responds to signal, to pattern, to coherence. So stay clear, stay grounded, stay unhooked. You don't need to raise your voice, just keep your lens clean. This is Transcendent Reality. Live the code.